Welcome back to the RMP, all you little baby Yodas. Oh my god, you're so cute, all the baby Yodas. If you've listened to this podcast up to this point and you don't feel like you're a young, inquisitive, adventurous baby Yoda, then get the fuck out. All right? Like, this is exactly why we're here. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's probably the old Star Wars Yoda, the Yoda that was like 800 years old, that very possibly could have influenced me to think the ridiculous way that I do. Sometimes I write and I don't even understand myself. And I say random things to people that they don't. I think I talk in circles. I think I talk so abstractly, so cryptically that nobody can even understand what the hell I'm saying. And I don't even know why. I love writing, and I love articulation, and I love, having to know words and like a I'm constantly pushing myself to be a dictionary of some sort, and half the time I don't even know if I'm using it correctly. I mean, I double check, but like, I love being this. Anyways, welcome back to the RMP. I'm Zachary, host of this Yoda podcast. If you want to hit me up, you can always email me at zachary@therebelminded.com or check out my newsletter on Substack, where everything is together and free, at therebelminded.substack.com. And we are here to question the mess, question ourselves, make some rebel actions, and start living life on our own terms. And I want to know, how do we live life as our true selves? Because it seems a lot of time we're faking it. The self that will look into us at the end and ask us, did we do it all? Now, speaking of, this is just an impulsive thought that I had just randomly today. I'm going off track a little bit here. I'm truly upset. I'm upset about how deeply people convince themselves, and I'm part of the group. It takes a lot to realize that what you're living only feels real because that's the realest you've ever lived, if that makes sense. Like, you've been adapted and conditioned to focus and see the world in a way that makes sense, that was built by other people. Like, it's the environment and the society and the situations around you that convince you of what life is. And the only thing that tells you that that's untrue is the whisper. It's the pit in your chest, which is what I had basically all of my teenage years in my 20s. And it's this random, call it angel on your shoulder, whatever you want to call it. I call it the whisper, that pokes at you when you're emotional, or when you're distraught, or when you're in doubt, or even when you're full of joy or adventure. When you're doing things outside of or feeling things outside of your normal realm, where your comfortable situation, your mind and body are telling you something. This is why I think the soul exists. I think the soul exists to tell you who you are, to pull you from any superficial, artificial existence and tell you who you are. But it's only a whisper. It's only a whisper. But anyway, I wanted people to know, because the thing that bothers me most is that there's an industrial world that has gotten us to this point that convinces people to live their lives in a way that seems super conventional and very similar to everyone else. It is literally a machine. There's nothing organic about it. And I was just thinking, I don't ever want to live waiting for retirement. I don't want some company to convince me that if I live through enough of something, if I endure something enough for them that they will give me something at the end. Because when you really think about it, doesn't that sound a little manipulative? Doesn't that sound a little tyrannical? Doesn't that sound a little suppressive? You know? I mean, beyond them forcing you to do the work and you not having freedom of choice, which frankly is starting to be a little cloudy these days, is if you sit and think about giving a career 40 years, for a career that you didn't choose by impulsive, joyous choice, if you didn't choose that, what makes you feel okay to do those 40 years for somebody else? 40 years, 24 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever. And then, you know, the other third of your day is sleeping. The other third of your day is taking care of your family or taking care of yourself. What is it about those 40 years that seems doable? Also, you can have something in the end where you just relax. And that relaxation has no purpose except to give you this dream idea that you can just not do anything. And the only reason you want to not do anything is because you spent the last 40 years doing something you didn't want to do. So doesn't it make some sort of sense that you live a full life, a full 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, pursuing things that are meaningful to you continuously into the years of wisdom, into the years of your body slowing down and your mind changing and fulfilling chapters of your life to some sort of climax and resolution chosen by you. Chosen by you. Doesn't that seem more right? Okay. I think I'm done. But let's move on to the episode. And if you guys can focus, and I didn't distract you too much with my rude question, which frankly you'll get over it. We can move on and put our minds back in the philosophical, back in the question. All right, this is episode 133, I think. 133. I'm starting to think that people live in different worlds. The brain registers the world around it, and the perception that an individual sees and feels is part of their influence on it, almost like it's more than vision and manifestation and confidence. It's almost as if there are different levels, different clarities of perception, individual perception, and one might think that they are stuck with only one sight. But I think changing the worlds we see, these layers, I would say, are malleable, kind of like being able to push out and spread sticky, clouded versions in an effort for a higher level of perception. I guess to expand a territory, expand a boundary that lets more in and builds a wisdom of what it is that our world actually exists of. Could these different levels of perception be foundations for people's success and influence? Shouldn't it seem possible that our brains can transform worry into adaptation, insignificance into worth, and blandness into adventure? In other words, can how we see the world be the insight in how to manipulate it, how to work with it, how to help ourselves take advantage of it? And is it a form of prioritization and work that changes it? In other words, does it require us to be uncomfortable, to push our boundary, to seek and accept new information? Is it the sacrificial significance of burning the past self for the sake of the new? Is it from pressing so hard and consistently against that wall that it finally starts to crack? Is our way through reliant on how the amount of pressure we put on it instead of the patience we give to it? So if a man has seen the greatest evil in the world, that doesn't prove that he would become evil. He could also know it well enough to keep others from it, warn them of it, or strengthen them against it. If a woman has lived on the edge of nature, wouldn't that most likely give her the perception of its importance as well as its danger? Could that mean she helps reconnect humans to nature itself? If a person has known nothing but poverty, does that mean that that person will always be without wealth? Could that person have wisdom of how important life is without it? Couldn't they show the world what we lose because of our greed? Couldn't that person find their own wealth and become a light in darkness because of their resistance against it? I think what I'm trying to get at here is that not only do we think very uniquely, and maybe we're just acting the same because of rules and regulations of society, but maybe that diversity of mind is actually insanely important in the progress of the world around us and the progress of ourselves. In other words, we would have to make sure to have self-expression, to connect to other people, to hear other people's authentic insights in order to further our own capability, to strengthen our own foundation, to add to our skills, to add to our perspective, to change our perceptions of the world in a way that makes it malleable, in a way that makes it transform, which makes us capable of transforming the world around us in a way that puts us on top and in belief of what we can do. This one was kind of complex because perception is insanely difficult, like emotions can be, to define. For us to understand somebody else's perception, we have to be able to bring down the defenses of our own. We have to be capable of understanding our sensibility and not getting too hurt by what could be different. I think that the idea that we are all living in different worlds is something that we might have to consider just so that we can actually create compassion and excitement for what life is and what life could be. Because it doesn't really make sense, right, for a average, hardworking, 40-an-hour week human to look to any idol and hear their story and be in awe, yet assume that it's impossible. I'm not really sure how this idea of rare, uncommon, talented, and gifted people came to be. Like, I remember being convinced of it myself. And the only thing that's made me capable of seeing it otherwise, for me, the only way I've been able to change my own perception of the world and myself is to see myself grow, but also seeing the flaw in those humans. It's like it stands right out there in front of everybody, but everybody's focused on the awe and the flaw in a way that keeps them disconnected from what those things actually mean. So if you see a celebrity or somebody influential in the world, for some reason we're dedicated to finding their flaw only in order to feel better about ourselves, but not in order to help see that they are not gods, see our own capability. And we also seem to be able to attach to them to attach ourselves to stars, to people that are gods, and we hold them up in that manner in a way that just makes us feel better about existence itself because of whatever it is that they're creating, whether it's something environmental, some sort of activist, some sort of actor, some sort of scientist, some sort of socially positive being, whatever that person may be. It's almost like it is with movies. We're attaching to something outside of ourselves. We're attaching to the intensity and adventure of human story without believing that it's actually true for ourselves. So I guess what I'm trying to understand here, or trying to get myself to see, is that there's power in being able to change the perception of ourselves and change our perception of the world for the pure sake of knowing how well we can influence it and how much we can change ourselves. I was saying in here transformation, adaptation, manipulation, taking advantage of. And so maybe I think this is my point for today through this entry, through this inquisitive thought here. This question is, what does perception mean, not just for you as an individual, but what does perception mean for your comparison to other people, and proving to yourself somehow that your own worldview may very well be false. It may very well be wrong. It may very well be self-sabotaging. It may very well be victimization. Because why is it that another human is capable of doing that and you're not? I'm working through this book in chunks because it is dense, about the 7 different types of intelligence, the theory of the 7 different types of intelligence. And it's written by this guy named Howard Gardner. And his whole idea here is that in the newness, even though it may not seem so new, the newness of human intelligence, in the newness of human intelligence, we've somehow attached ourselves to this basic ignorant idea that IQ itself is the only intelligence that exists. But he debates this, and let me check the different forms here. So the 7 different types of intelligence that he's claiming here are linguistic intelligence, musical intelligence, logical, mathematical intelligence, spatial intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, personal intelligence, and maybe that's it. Anyways, so he's making an effort for us to recognize the different forms of intelligence that we have capability for, and it's showing itself in the different hugely diverse talents that people have. It shows up in the careers that we have. It shows up in the entertainment. It shows up in the creativity. It shows up everywhere in the world, and he's trying to put through in this idea that IQ is I guess, almost archaic, and at this point obsolete way of recognizing intelligence. And to have sense of these 7 forms of intelligence also means that we would be able to educate more deeply on the different types and help people thrive in something that they would naturally have a knack for, have a talent for, have a passion for, have a curiosity for. And I honestly think this is super important. And I think this is also very important for perception, which we were talking about, because it helps us open up the abilities that we may have. It maybe helps us become more curious. It helps us become more adventurous in trying to discover more of ourselves and get out of this linear idea of how we must exist and how other people may or may not be better than us, which I don't think there is a better. I think that there is a work ethic that proves our worth to ourselves and our community, right? But this is kind of a lot. This is kind of a lot. So I would say this is some sort of homework maybe. I would say that we need to understand that our perception of the world is built by the instinctive reactions that we have to the world. It's based on the environment that we grew up in. It's based on the traumas that we went through, the good things and the bad things, and it's connected to the things that have come in and out of our lives or that have been absent in our lives, and given us an idea of the world that could very well be insanely constricted. You know, as the world decides to grow, as the world decides to progress and accept more and learn more, it's very easy to think that that somehow we are at the top of our game when in the next 500 years we could look back and realize how stupid we really were. So I think it's also important for people to find themselves and change their perception of the world in order to better understand what it is that they're meant for, what it is they're capable for, and how exactly the world could work. So I'll leave it at that. But I love you all. Whatever it is, just keep grinding. Keep thinking in a rebel-minded way, rebel-minded manner. Truth and love. This is your host, Zach. Out. Hey guys, I hope that all things we've brought here, including the people, have helped you change the way that you see the world. And if it has, then it would help us so much if you leave a rating and a comment on iTunes, or give any feedback wherever you listen to the RMP. Thank you for listening in, and don't forget to follow and subscribe. Question everything, my friends.